So we got some brand new news on Star Wars Outlaw, and this news is actually pretty spicy because we get a little bit more in depth. And I know you guys are saying this game is made by Ubisoft. I gotta run. It's gonna be Far Cry 2.0. It's gonna be Avatar 5.6. No, guys, I want you to pay close attention because this game actually might be really good. And we're gonna dive into the new news that we got, and overall, kind of explain to you guys why you shouldn't judge the game based on it being a Ubisoft product. You should actually judge it based on the company that's making it. And I'm going to make a very good case on this one where you guys are going to be like, okay, I see what you mean. I understand where you're going with this. So let's dive in, talk about the brand new news we heard from Star Wars Outlaw, and also why you need to put this on your radar. So let's kick it off. For those of you, this might be the first time you ever heard of the game. If you're watching this video, you probably heard of the game already. So Star Wars is an upcoming action adventure game that is focused on Star Wars universe. It's being developed by Massive Entertainment and being published by Ubisoft. And this is where I want to go ahead and talk to you guys about the reason why I feel this game needs to get a little bit more credit instead of just putting it in it's a Far Cry copy. And it's under license by Lucasfilms Games, which if you guys are Star Wars fans, you guys should be excited for because they did release a couple games like The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, which are also scheduled to release. Now, with that being said, guys, why is this game being misjudged? Number one, let's talk about it. So, as you guys know, whenever we think of a game and we see that it's being published by Ubisoft, the first thing that goes off to our mind is it's going to be like Assassin's Creed. It's going to be like Far Cry. And I got to tell you guys, Ubisoft does a really good job of making these type of games, but they have the formula down to a T. They have it so well taught off that the problem is that almost every game seems like it's a Far Cry clone or an Assassin's Creed clone. And you're probably saying, well, Laser, that's basically what we think Star Wars Outlaws is going to be. Before you jump the ship, let's go ahead and talk about the person who's actually developing the game, which is Massive Entertainment. Now, I'm going to reference two games. One that you're extremely familiar with, which is The Division. As you guys know, Massive Entertainment made Division 1 and made Division 2. And as you may know, these games play totally different than any Far Cry game and, any Assassin's Creed game because these are more intended to being loot and shooters. In addition to that, we have seen in the past that the game seems to get better as it progresses. Now, when The Division first launched, it wasn't at its best core, but it got better as it went through. So we know that there's going to be support for the game. Number two is we know they know how to create massive worlds. And we see this in The Division. And the reason I want to tie this back together is Ubisoft recently published a game called Avatar, which was also developed by Massive Entertainment. Now, think of what you think of Avatar the game. There is one thing you cannot knock the game for, and that is how beautiful the open world is. I have played multiple games throughout my entire life here on Earth, and I gotta tell you, one of the best open world games that is gonna give you a sense of you being there is Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. The game might have its flaws, but overall, the open world in that game is none like other. You're gonna feel like you're actually in Pandora, and you're gonna be able to experience how immersive the world feels when you're playing the game. So I want to reference this to Star Wars Outlaw. Now, as you guys know, Star Wars Outlaw is once again an open world game that is being developed by Massive Entertainment. And I feel if we just take that part of the portion of how well structured Avatar and the world is in Avatar and how well structured the world was in Division, I'm pretty sure that the world and open feel of the game, the open world, is going to be really good in this game. Now, the only thing that we don't know so far, and we have yet to see a little bit more gameplay with, is how well the looting system's going to work, the replayability is going to work. But the great thing is today we actually got some really good information on some of these questions. Now, one of the biggest questions that, as you guys know, that we've been asking is what exactly is the loop? And the creative director said actually something very interesting. He said the game is a large open world game, but he said that the open world will be manageable. And it's kind of interesting the way he paraphrases because he says the game will not be 200 or 300 hour epic unfinished RPG. And I kind of like the quote on that. What he's saying is the game is not going to be extensive long where you're going to be playing 200 hours, 300 hours, but the actual product is going to be finished. And that is something I like. I mean, I would rather have an 80 hour, 50 hour game that's finished and it's well polished as opposed to having a 200, 3 hour game that has no replayability of value and it's just kind of like the same thing over and over. And I kind of like that, that thing that he posted off. Now, sticking about the open world, he was asked in an interview, what is the core game loop of the game? And he replied the following way. He says that there are 3 different types of experiences that the player will be able to participate in the game. The first one of these is a dense city bustling with activity and lively cantinas where you might find criminal syndicates and corrupt imperials mingling together. Now, this is extremely important because from what we know of the game, there are going to be different factions in these games, and based on how you deal with these factions or these syndicates or these imperials, it's going to go towards your reputation, and that's going to determine the loot you find in the game and how you're treated and how difficult certain locations are. He then said, second is our vast, mysterious, and stunning open world environment, whether you're on foot or on case speeder. So there's going to be multiple traversal ways of actually moving along here. I think the best way I could actually reference this, if you ever play Destiny and you bring out your Sparrow and you move around the world, it's kind of like I feel like what the speeder's going to feel like in this game. So I kind of like that sense. And he says the final is space, which players can explore on case ships. So we're going to have 3 different variants, right? We're going to have a variant of going into the cantinas, finding these syndicates, finding these imperials, and doing missions. Then we're going to be able to go around the whole open world and either on foot or on our speeder. And then we're going to have a open space where we're going to be able to use our ship to explore. Now, for those of you who might not know, you're going to be playing as a scoundrel called K-Vest. Now, in particular, what are the advantages of playing this type of game? Because this is kind of like the first time we were put on these particular shoes. We're kind of like the bad guy that's working with bad guys and good guys and trying to kind of piece the pieces together. And he was actually asked what was the main integral component behind the game. And he says that we basically want to make the game as an intergalactic tourist. He said one of the core parts of our scoundrel fantasy is having your own ship, and that essentially being your home. Outlaws are traveling constantly and need to be on move all the time. You'll be able to go from on foot to speeder to your ship and easily jump between planets. Space represents a super lucrative yet very risky experience for any outlaw. If you go off the beaten path, your willingness to explore will bring surprises as well. So you can go from taking on a contract to steal an Imperial shipment, but then get distracted on your speeder and head off into the Tashra Savannah in search for an artifact, and the game will reward you courteously. Now, speaking about rewarding, it's something we actually touched about earlier, but we didn't go into too much detail, and that is the reputation system. And he did cover this extensively because one thing was asked is, how are the factions going to play a key role when we're using our main character as K-Vesa? How is she going to operate when it comes to different factions? And how are these going to tie in personally with the relationships and influence the choices we make? So he answered and says, players can use quests with each of the syndicates to manage case reputation, which will impact the jobs they offer and the impact they'll have on throughout the story. Each player will have a different profile with each of the syndicates based on how they've interacted with them over the course of her journey. Now, that's something that I really like, and I feel like this is going to make the replayability of this game pretty extensive, because depending on what faction you decide to side with, or what syndicate you decide to work more with or an alliance with, is going to determine overall not only the items that you get, but also impact the story. So no, every single game that's played is going to be played the same, because some people are going to favor other syndicates more than other. Now, as to which syndicates are going to provide the most benefits, that's why you need to stick around to this channel, because we're going to have you completely covered with all that information. Generally, I feel like if you had a little bit of doubt of Star Wars and what the Star Wars Outlaw game was going to be like, and had a couple questions if you should put this on your radar, I highly recommend you put it back on your radar, because I have a really good feeling that this might be a really big game that you probably will miss out just because you have a little bit of, oh, I don't know, it's a Ubisoft game. I'm telling you guys, give it a shot. I played Avatar, the world is beautiful, and I just can imagine how beautiful that world converted to a Star Wars world, and how well the game mechanics are going to work very similar to the Division on here are going to make the game just that more enjoyable. Let me know what you guys think. Did you already have it on your radar? Did you not? And if you do have it on your radar now after watching this video, let me know why. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.